1,
2,
3,
4,
5,
6,
7,
8,
9,
10,
11,
12.
13.
14.
Oh, sorry.
That was great.
That was really good. This is going to be a really good session.
do we call it with that one? Because I don't even know if we ever got beyond that.
Hello, and welcome to the Every Game in This City panel for Melbourne International Games Week. True to the week, this is a highly international panel with people from all over the world calling in. Many of us are currently living, or were previously living, on the unceded lands of the Kulin Nation, of the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people. We pay our respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal people. For those of you who don't know, Every Game in This City is a podcast where we get way too many people to meet up and play way too many games in a week. And we record a podcast while we do that. So you can listen to this podcast after the session on the Idle Thumbs network, which if you go to www.everygameinthis.city, you'll be able to check it out. Hosting our panel today are 3 cast members who were on both seasons of this podcast, which were 2 very different experiences. So we've got Stephanie, Alex, and myself, Shang Lun. Maybe we can quickly introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'll start. I'm Stephanie Boluk, and I'm coming to you from the land of the Ohlone people, which is otherwise known as Oakland, California. And there I'm actually a professor at the University of California, Davis. And at Davis, I make games, play games, teach about games, do all sorts of things games. And I'm actually just going to take this opportunity really quick to mention that Patrick LeMieux is also kind of here with us, not on screen, but behind the scenes. I don't know if you want to peep in. So that's Patrick. He was also on both seasons, and he's going to be doing production for us, as well as he's going to be the one that's editing the video, making us all look really nice. So thanks for that.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Lee, and I am from Melbourne originally, but currently I'm in Singapore. I'm a co-founder at Play Reactive, which is an interactive art studio, and we make bold, playful experiences, anything including interactive art pieces, escape rooms, video games, all sorts of playful things. And I basically do production and business development at Play Reactive.
And I'm Harry Lee Shang Lun. I'm also currently based in Singapore. We are doing MBAs at different institutions. And I'm the director of Play Reactive. So I guess creatively leading an interdisciplinary group of very talented people to make interesting interactive experiences, video games, theater, and the like. So very excited that we get to do this podcast and this project. There were 2 seasons that I mentioned before. There's season 1. In season 1, 10 game designers, researchers, and curators met up in Malaysia to try to play every escape room in Kuala Lumpur. And we did it.
Kind of.
We managed to do 50 of them. Not everyone, but very close.
It's still pretty good for 1 week. Still pretty good. And then in season 2, we had 4 familiar voices and 4 new friends that gathered in China to try and watch every game at the Dota 2 International Championships in Shanghai.
And actually, we definitely did not manage to watch every single game of the Dota International Championships, but we tried really hard.
It's
really,
effort
really
that
hard.
counts. Along the way, though, we managed to explore each of the cities, so Kuala Lumpur and Shanghai. And we met some amazing people and recorded daily discussions about our experiences and recorded it in our podcast project.
Yeah, so we're trying to play well together. And today we've gathered the people from both season 1 and season 2 to talk about escape rooms and esports. And we're really excited because actually they haven't met. So although Stephanie, Alex, and myself were on both seasons, Will, Jing, Chad, and Goldie have never met until this moment. So to start off with, who's in the room?
Hello, I'm Goldie Bartlett. I'm an artist and I live in Melbourne. I was part of season 1 of Every Game in This City, so I got to go to Kuala Lumpur and play a lot of escape rooms, which was really good. And in Melbourne, as I said, I work as an artist. I'm currently art directing or developing a game called Wayward Strand, which is hopefully going to be out within the year. We just announced PlayStation 5, which is really cool. So I'm a game developer.
Hi, I'm Chad Toprak. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm tuning in from Wurundjeri land. I'm an experimental game designer, independent curator, and the current artistic director of Free Play, which is an independent games festival based here in Melbourne. Outside of that, I also help co-curate the Hover Garden collective alongside Andrew Brophy, where we throw parties, exhibitions, and events here in Melbourne.
So hi, I'm Jing. I'm from the season 2. Yeah. Right now I'm in Hong Kong. I've never been to Australia, but always want to visit someday. So I started as a game journalist or critic. I run a Chinese language game column called Game On. And because of that column, I reached out to so many great people in gaming and writing and game design. And I was so lucky to finish developing my first game with a Hong Kong artist, Alan Huan, just this year earlier. And right now we're wrapping it up. And I'm also doing a PhD on how games can be cool museums, like not a digital copy of analog museum, but a cool museum, like a Trojan horse. You play it without knowing you're actually forced to visiting a museum, something like that. Yeah.
And I'm Will Partin. I am joining y'all from Atlanta, Georgia in the United States, historically the home of the Muskogee Creek people. I am a researcher at Data and Society Research Institute, but also a graduate student in communication, and I have spent many years sort of researching esports. Was very involved in the industry as a player, a tournament organizer, a journalist, a consultant, just sort of all sorts of roles around esports, and especially around Dota 2, the game we all gathered in Season 2 to sort of enjoy in our own various ways in Shanghai.
So this is a small portion of our cast members. Season 1 and Season 2 had other members that you should definitely go and look up. But we're here now, and I want to really know, across Season 1, looking at escape rooms, and Season 2, looking at esports, what actually happened? What on earth did we do in this intense week?
Well, in Season 1, the goal was to play every escape room in the city. So for months leading up to the trip, we did our research and tried to find out what they were, where they were, and how many of them there were. Then we, booked our flights and went to Kuala Lumpur. And over the course of 7 days, we had a schedule of, I think we were playing around 6 every day or so, six or 7
So
every
intense.
day. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a very beautiful time. But yeah, we that's what we were doing. and like having fun and eating at amazing places and seeing beautiful sights and getting to know each other and all of those other good things that come with traveling together. But the core of the project was to play a lot of these games, talk about them, and record podcast episodes like once or twice a day as well to get it all down. I think that's a fair summary of what it was.
So what was the daily routine like, Chad?
The daily routine was pretty intense. We would all wake up sometime between 7 or 8 a.m., have our breakfast, and then by 9 we would start kind of our first morning podcast. From there, we would head out to a shopping mall or an escape room venue and then just start playing whatever games that they had to offer. That could be 2, maybe 3 different escape rooms. From there, we would break for lunch. Usually it'd either be, at a shopping mall kind of food court. Sometimes it's just in a kind of restaurant or a food stall type place. And then we would play escape rooms again.
Yeah.
And again, it would be like 3-4 different escape rooms until it was kind of time to have dinner. And once we were done, we would either play more escape rooms, or just call it a day and then head home and have some relaxed downtime. And then we would eventually record our nighttime or our evening podcast session. And then we'd rinse and repeat and do it all over again.
That's it. Rinse and repeat is the big one. And like there were some interesting habits which formed. I think play style emerged pretty quickly where we would turn up at the venue and kind of mingle with the hosts of the escape room. And then, there was always the same prompt. Okay, well, here are your lockers and you can put your things away. And then we quickly realized that we wanted to try to sneak a phone into every instance of an escape room to try to record field audio diary. So little things like that started to kind of embellish what we did on the trip and what the trip was all about.
Yeah, and I'll actually just add on about the sneaky phones that we brought in to start doing our audio recordings. In some ways, that actually is a weird thread that connects us to season 2 with Esports, because what would happen is we would designate someone to be the essentially what is a shoutcaster, a commentator who would not play the escape room, but would just watch people play the escape room and then narrate what is happening into our sneaky phone recorder, where it was actually, we really did have to kind of smuggle them in because they wanted us to put them in lockers and stuff. So there'd be someone that is
talking to their
Shang Lun is currently looking at the lock right now and punching in some codes.
Oh my God, it's blue.
So now we're actually in this dark room. There's art. Doug is taking the first crawl across the floor. Keep low, keep low. Stay low. Doug, keep moving forward.
Important to note that there are cameras in every escape room, so that's hence why the sneakiness about it.
It's man, these people must stink. They keep smelling themselves.
I think though at the end they kind of didn't. We weren't taking photos. We were kind of just talking, and so somehow that in terms of anxieties, that didn't seem to get on people's radar. But what's interesting about that is that the kind of presence of the observer there, by having someone who is not playing but commentating and shoutcasting, it kind of changed the game in a lot of ways. And I mean, I'm sure hopefully we can cut in some footage or some audio here of the various kind of genres of shoutcaster that we got, because some of us were coming to escape rooms for the first time, like myself, and some of us like Alex and Shang Lun, as well as Laura and Jay, were actually escape room designers. And so some folks would immediately apprehend the language of the escape room a lot faster. And so when you were commentating, Shang Lun, there'd be some passive aggressive, Stephanie is just staring into the void.
Oh boy, this is going to be bad. So we're in a white and blue, quite spacious, much larger than the previous one, and there are clear puzzles that Stephanie and Doug are kind of just looking at. I think the expression on people's faces is really interesting. When they're communicating, they're looking at people's faces but getting no response. When they're just absorbing, Stephanie right now is just standing, kind of holding her hands together and looking at blankly, as if though into an infinite horizon. I'm not proud of what I did, but it definitely was passive aggressive. Yeah,
the answer is clearly 6.
They're rushing past the obvious clue on the wall.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun. And being together for, I think it was 9 or 10 days, or even a little bit longer, you were close enough and in it together enough to kind of understand and forgive one another. And I love it when a group bonds in that way. We really got to experience that, which was really cool.
Yeah, it turns out playing well together, which that's kind of what's been inspiring this podcast, but it turns out playing is really hard, right? Everyone thinks it's going to be easy, but creating a play community that, where everybody is coming there ready to be immersed and it's intentional and everybody is sort of on board, and we have that kind of trust in order to build that etiquette over time.
Definitely.
It was a very interesting experience to not just sort of do that, once or even a couple times, but over this long duration. by the end of it, by using that method, it very much kind of changed our relationship to the escape room space. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about the method in a little bit, but maybe we should actually, so that was kind of a little taste of season 1. But what happened on season 2, where, we decided at the end that, even though we loved escape rooms, we wanted to see what would happen if we kind of applied this immersion method over a week-long period to a very, very different object, esports.
Yeah, and I think something, I was familiar with the concept before Stephanie and Patrick reached out to me to say, hey, do you want to come take part in this crazy thing we're doing? But this sort of key distinction of, instead of it being lots of sort of individual escape rooms throughout the city, there's this one enormous object, this particular tournament, that has this almost gravitational force all over everything else around it. And so that sets up a really interesting and I think kind of productive distinction between the two seasons. And so for me, it was very much of just realizing, yes, there's this one event that we are all nominally here to see, but as soon as you open your eyes a little bit, you find all of its tendrils throughout Shanghai, and the way it showed up in malls, in art studios, among all of these sort of gray market kind of things, all of these documentary crews who were there. And once you sort of made yourself willing to see those sort of things, you just saw how much one single game could have this enormous impact across this enormous city.
And Will, for those of us, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this won't necessarily know what Dota 2 and the International is. What would be your elevator pitch to describe this kind of beast of a game?
Dota 2 is the gamer's game. It's in all of the best and worst things that implies. It is a 5 versus 5 game. It has sort of a lot of the classic sort of high fantasy Tolkien-esque kind of stuff. But this particular game is, loved in almost an obsessive way by its fans. And once a year, the developer of it, Valve, puts on a particular tournament, the International, that brings in all of the best teams in the world to compete for what is usually sort of an enormous prize pool. And I think for Shanghai, it was $38 million US dollars. I
think it was 34.
34, okay. Which
some absurdly high number.
Yeah. And so this was the first time that tournament had happened in China, which brought all kinds of interesting sort of dynamics with it. But it really, it's the Super Bowl or the World Cup for this particular game. And really that kind of made this an incredibly interesting environment to explore how one game can sort of, what it can do to a city.
So in season 2, Will and Yangjing, you were both there. What did you do, and what was your relationship to this international tournament?
So I think it all started way earlier, before we actually set our foot in Shanghai. Especially for Patrick and Stephanie, they spent months to get the tickets. So we actually have an easy ride because they already get the tickets from a skateboarder. I forgot this American kid's name. And so when we settled in Shanghai, we have to do this special kind of mission to meet up with him. And there's also police involved, as I remember. So Patrick was using some confusing Chinese to prove our innocence, but it finally worked. We have this really nice penthouse in Shanghai, and we all live in it. And the living room was set up as a recording room. So every morning at the beginning we started to record in the morning, but later we also do it in the evening. And we work as a special cooperative team. Everyone has our own mini function or role, because as Will was saying, Dota is so big, there's so many people, and we have to be coordinated so we try to cover everything, which is impossible, but we really tried. And then we have to come back and report it's really like a special operation. And then we really try to go to Mercedes-Benz Center. That's where the TI was held, to watch the show from there. But I think in the end, we were pretty exhausted. And also we went through some financial speculative game because of the ticketing. like the price of the tickets went up and down, considering the Chinese team is doing still well in the game. And we figured out if we sell the tickets, we may earn some money, but I think we didn't because we were a bit hesitating. So we missed that window. But we're pretty exhausted. And
my biggest
watched...
regret from season 2.
Like thousands of dollars?
We could have made so much money.
There was an ethical decision that had to be made at one point where, we had tickets to the final and we could have walked away $10,000 richer. But $10,000 richer through like money that would have been transferred through WeChat. And and WeChat at that time, foreigners couldn't have bank accounts. So we would have to find we would have had to find someone who was from mainland China to basically hold this, reseller ticket money and then kind of transfer that. And so there, and that was a little bit.
Just give him $1,000 to do it.
Just to clarify, it's not that we would have gotten 10,000 for the tickets. We would have left with a surplus of 10,000, so it would have covered the cost of our trip. Because these tickets are gold.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway.
But I think that this is part of what was so interesting about it was that we had been going to the tournament and going every day, but at some point, like you can only watch 8 hours of esports for so long, especially for those people in the group that weren't necessarily Dota aficionados. And so all of the stuff that was happening kind of around the stadium, like the resellers market, which was absolutely fascinating because we would go and talk to those resellers and they basically had to know the meta of Dota 2 to know how to mark their prices in relationship to who was winning or losing. So within a moment of a team officially kind of winning, there would be these fluctuations in the price of the remaining tickets, because going to the International isn't like getting tickets to a concert where you just buy a ticket. You have to buy a ticket every single day. And so there's this whole speculative economy that got formed essentially in a way that's very different from say a music concert or even a more conventional sports match.
So we've got season 1, a bunch of designers, researchers, curators go to Kuala Lumpur, play every escape room. And then we've got season 2, where a bunch of game designers, researchers, curators go to Shanghai and watch every game of Dota at the International. It sounds like there's actually quite a lot of similarities between the 2 seasons in how we traveled together and lived together and ate together and kind of, died a little inside together, doing these massive experience. What were your favorite moments from your independent seasons?
I have one particular fond memory of getting locked up in a dog cage that I wanted to share.
Oh my goodness!
Consensually.
It was who was it? Was it me, Patrick, and Amani in an escape room, and it was like a puppet / marionette themed escape room. With lots of kind of scary bits, mildly scary, like dark, long corridors, and mannequin legs around the corner and all these weird stuff. But once we got past that, we were in a room that had a large dog cage in it. And it had an opening that you could kind of crawl into. And we eventually figured out that in order to solve a certain puzzle, one of us had to crawl into that dog cage and do some puzzle solving from the inside. And so I volunteered. I stepped in, and as I was stepping in, I noticed that the cage, the flip door, only went one way, and there was a switch that we needed to flip to open a door somewhere. But flipping that switch turned on this magnetic mechanism on my end that actually locked the door, which meant that once I was ready to leave, I actually couldn't leave. I was trying to pull the door open, and it wouldn't open. And I think at that point, Amani and Patrick had already begun leaving, and they were like, goodbye.
Oh no, I'm stuck. Are you
caged? Friends, I'm stuck.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Leave
him. Let's get out of here. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye.
Are they gonna
see ya? Oh, no. We're leaving you. We're leaving him.
Oh my god.
Let's get out of here. Later, Chad. See ya. You're on your own. Goodbye.
It was great. It was great.
I think a couple for me. One is like a retrospective, like when I think back about it was like realizing, I'm really good at this. Like I'm the person who's really good at this thing on this team. And that's like hand-eye coordination, dexterity puzzles. Like I'm really good at them. And I didn't know that when I arrived. And now I'm like quite proud and know that if I was ever on Survivor, I could do those ones.
Goldie just like very carefully using chopsticks to lift a metal ball with surgical precision. As the rest of us,
4 people.
This was supposed to be done like, no, she just like did it all herself. 2 extra hands sprouted from your back, and we were all in awe. Like I did not breathe for those 3 minutes.
And I loved how it felt to do that, and so that for me it was a very personal one. It's just like, I'm good at that. The other is that the World Cup was on at the time that we were there, and so I loved the daily like routine that we had in Kuala Lumpur, and that I guess you would find in Southeast Asia a lot of the time, which is sort of like slow mornings, beautiful warm hot afternoons, and then a lot of people would kind of come together to eat dinner at like 10:30 p.m., which was when all of the games of soccer were on. And so not every night, but a lot of the times there'd be like soccer on the telly and a lot of people outside and watching it. And we're talking about like the kind of global face of things from both of our experiences. And I think that having like the World Cup on at that time was, I don't know, it was fantastic to be in a completely different country when that was happening.
And for me, and something going into season 2 that I knew I really wanted to do was to kind of have like an endurance experience of getting to the stadium for the very first game in a day and staying like until the very last one, because these tournaments often, because they have, they're bringing 16 teams in, running this tournament over a week, are running, potentially between 12 and 16 games a day that could be like an hour or an hour and a half each. And so even like the most hardcore fans usually come in and they watch like, their teams play and they leave and go do something else. But I was like, no, I want to get there and just like experience this rush of just like endurance, everything, like give me a 16-hour day. And it ended up being this kind of wonderful moment where I started in the absolute like worst seats in the arena, like the full like top level back corner. And then I think Shang Lun like got exhausted of Dota by like noon and gave me and so I like got a slightly better seat, and then I saw that like a friend of mine who was a journalist was there covering it, and he like snuck me into the journalism section. And nice. Then another friend who was up in the it was one of the team owners was like, yeah, come by our booth, I'll let you in. And then, another connection we had was like, oh yeah, I was invited by Valve. I can't be there tonight. Do you want something from their booth? And so over the course of this like 16-hour day, I like elevated myself from like the worst seat in the stadium to the absolute best possible seat in the entire stadium.
So funny. Literal ascension.
It was kind of this extraordinary little like internal narrative of ascending throughout this like endurance day. That was like exhausting. It was like I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it was still really like revealing and cool in its own way.
Did you go and get like a tattoo of like a concrete pillar that you were sitting behind at the start?
No, I had like lots of really, really bad hot dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, the hot dogs were so.
Could somebody talk about the food situation real quick?
I mean,
there was no food available. What a contrast compared to Kuala Lumpur, where you have infinite food options available. That's not to say that Shanghai doesn't have amazing food. It does. But however, when we were at the International specifically, we were trapped inside the stadium. They were like, you can't leave to eat. It's really hard to get back in because you have to line up again. So we were trapped in this stadium, and all there was to eat was like hot dogs, and what was there? Like burgers, hot dogs or burgers. That's it.
That's it.
Popcorn.
But
Really
they
bad
actually
hot
ran
dogs.
out of food. Many.
Yeah, it was quite a commotion. Actually, people got very upset, understandably, that there was no food after. I think it was the first day. They ran out of food because they didn't anticipate that many
Oh,
people.
yeah.
So, like, you know, Will mentioned that I hit the wall quickly. For escape rooms, I was fine. I was like, oh yeah, I can always do another escape room. With Dota, like, by lunchtime, when I realized that I had hot dogs, I was done. I was out. Like, I can't watch another.
Remember when you got denied a hot dog after waiting for one so long?
Oh.
He started wailing in distress.
I cried, and they were so concerned for me that they like gave me an employee hot dog.
No.
I mean, like, I said cried as if I was emotionally sad. I was like angry. I stomped around. I think I said my stomach is hungry, because in Chinese you would say 我肚子饿, but I just translated into English as well. 我肚子饿, my stomach is hungry.
Could you not bring? I guess. I mean, I would assume not. You couldn't pack a sandwich or.
No, it's not allowed. People had food confiscated at the gates. It was very
Yeah.
serious.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
the
Peter,
security
one of
check.
our cast members, tried to sneak in food, and had many conversations trying to convince people that he needed it for blood sugar purposes, and they were just like, absolutely not. So
Wow.
Peter at the gate, but this is really important for my blood sugar, and they're just like, no.
no,
Don't.
no.
My favorite moment started to be a bit dark, because I was really new to esports or like multiplayer games. I was a solo player all the time, and this experience got me right inside, like what Will was saying, the best and the worst. Remember, we get a VIP ticket in my city event, thanks to Shang Lun's connection to Valve, and because we're not so wealthy, we have to share this ticket. And we each go to this VIP session for afternoon or the morning, and the rest of us were in the coach. And one day I was a lucky one, and I went up there, and it was really nice. It was very different. Like on the other like sessions, it's so crowded that people have to actually struggle for a nicer view or nicer vision. But in the VIP session, there's nobody there. I guess they are all sponsors of the city event center, so they get free tickets, but they don't really care. Most of their staff, maybe they're overworking. That's China, so they don't have time to come to see. And as I was watching it from there, I got bullied by a Chinese guy. Now that I remember, it has something about nationalism and gender and everything, and I stuck at dealing with bullies, so I didn't do well. But when I was talking to you guys, I got so many supportive comments, or even on the phone, I got a lot of like comforts, and someone was really brave, said they're going to beat this guy, but he's already gone. And then I was
think
told
I wasn't there, mate.
Then I was told by you that this is pretty normal, like in mobile games or MMORPGs. And this guy's just gone, but I think that's a striking moment for me, because as a solo player, you never really meet these people, and you don't have to interact with them.
And that it was
Yeah,
in
I
the VIP area as well is just particularly striking, I guess.
I don't know if it's geopolitics, racism, not racism, like racial or class part, because most people in the VIP session, they don't really work for these companies. They always have some connection. And this guy who bullied me has connection to a really large corporation. I forgot which one. And he's really proud of that. And I annoyed him because I asked a lot of people questions, and he thought I'm humiliating the country. It's very bizarre.
It was
but
a
it happened.
perfect storm of racism, sexism, nationalism, all in that moment. I remember that moment vividly. Also, it was really horrible. But also, I think it speaks to the fact that, you know, when we think about esports or sports, it's a level playing field. These things don't matter when you're playing the game, but it turns out that stuff like race, gender, identity, language, class. It's always just seeped into every aspect of that. And again, I think that was something that we became acutely aware of, along with all the money games that were going on at the International that year.
I think this is exactly what happens, that like our trips reveal things about the space and time because they are really deeply embedded in a context. And so it makes sense that is a very striking memory because we all experienced it in different capacities. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like things weren't always smooth sailing. We've had different trials and tribulations, some of them incredibly funny. Does anyone have a funny memory of an accident or an error that occurred?
I like how you all speak Chinese, but resulted in bizarre situation. Like there's a 7-Eleven or something, like in the penthouse community, and Shang Lun would always go there and compliment the cashier that your body is beautiful. Do you remember that?
What would that be like? 你的身体很漂亮.
I think the problem was I didn't really know how to end a conversation in Chinese in Mandarin.
Oh,
remember? Yeah. So I just kind of how do you say take care? And I didn't. All I had to rely on was your body was beautiful.
I think you said that to a police officer.
And when we were trying to get tickets from the skipper, Patrick was there, and then the police was coming. Patrick said something like, "We're good people."
That's right. Yeah, Patrick got caught in this illegal transaction situation. Not illegal, but frowned upon.
Did he use the word for friend, like pangyo?
It's almost like in a Hong Kong gangster movie. Like one side is bad, one side is good, and he's a good side, and he wants to kill the police.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily associate Patrick with Hong Kong gangsters, but
you never know. I think in our season, in escape rooms, they're designed for those moments where, oh my God, it was so funny when somebody dropped the keys. And I'm not sure whether it will translate super well to be and then there was that time that this very specific thing happened in this room that was set up like a teacher's office. But there were thousands of those moments, where especially later through the week when we were tired. And
didn't we have purposeful? Because at some point we started adding rules to escape rooms, right?
We did.
And I my favorite memory is not even something I saw. I wish I was a fly on that wall. But you and Patrick did one in silence.
We did do one in silence, which was really, really hard and really, really fun. And that's also the one where I think for me personally, that was the biggest kind of argument. But it was completely silent.
Patrick's gesticulating wildly, shaking his head, can't believe what's happening. Dissension amongst the ranks. Keys just dropped to the ground. Everything's falling apart. Patrick furiously pointing to the list of dates. No one looking at Patrick at all. Patrick stomping his foot, vigorously asking everyone to look. Not having voice is very difficult.
So it was fine. I think if we'd been speaking, we wouldn't have fought, first of all, but having to pantomime what the hell, why would you make that decision? Was really fun. And I also
I can see Patrick off in the side. He's laughing.
He always describes it as Goldie petulantly stamping her foot.
I think I did stomp my foot.
And the intimacy of getting angry with someone.
Yeah, for sure. It was nice.
In total silence in an escape room.
It was nice.
But then also having Doug Wilson commentate.
Yeah, that's right. Doug Longarms Wilson standing there just narrating this silent argument made it worse. At the time, it was fine afterwards. The other thing is I don't really know sign language at all very well, and I thought I knew what thank you was, so I tried to say thank you to Doug at some point, but it turns out that I said F you. So, and he got really offended. He was like,
"Why fuck me?" I just got a fuck you gesture from Goldie. Oh, it was a thank you? Hold on. No. Putting your hand on your chin means fuck you. I got you the keys. You needed my long arms to get.
And I was like,
In
we did it
Oslo,
again.
you
Yeah.
do thank you by touching your chin and reaching out. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, it's a pretty common sign. But Goldie did this instead.
Yeah.
And Doug, being from New York, was like, excuse me? Like,
And I couldn't explain. I couldn't say like what, because I was being silent. But it was a farce, and it was a very fun farce. And yeah, it's just stuff like that that was beautiful.
It's the opposite of saying a cop has a beautiful body.
You know, one of kind of the running themes about season 2 is we had all of these tickets for the finals, and over sort of the course of the season, we developed this like increasingly robust knowledge about the gray market around tickets and how they were valued differently. And there's maybe a moment like halfway through the week that we realize, like, you know, everybody gets little dollar signs in their eyes when we realize we might be $1,000 of tickets right here if this particular combination of teams wins. And we definitely had sort of a number of questions about the ethics of this, what it would sort of mean to get like really deeply invested in this kind of ticket betting. And I remember, I think we pretty much like, we doubled down. We were like, we're really going to hope that this particular combination of teams wins. And then they didn't. And so there was this moment where like what was potentially like about $50,000 of tickets like collapsed into like, you know, substantially less than that.
And do you want to talk specifically about what those teams, like who those teams were, or like what caused the market to tank?
Yeah, so really the only thing that seemed to truly be linked to the value of the tickets was the performance of the Chinese teams, and in particular, sort of LGD, which was sort of like the national favorites, and Vici Gaming, which was sort of the more like kind of hometown, like Shanghai team. You know, when it became for a while it seemed like one of them was guaranteed to be in the final. That was sort of like the high watermark for the tickets. And ultimately, the two teams fought each other for a spot for the game that would have then gone on to put them in the finals. But ultimately, neither of them made it. And so that's led the value of the tickets to collapse like considerably. And so I remember, I think young Jing was like chatting with some of the groups we'd made our way into on WeChat, and made an offer for some tickets based on a previous value. And they're like, that's so yesterday. Why are you talking like this?
Because I slept for a night and everything changed.
Disappearing like tears in the rain.
Yeah. So that was an error in the sense that like, we should have not have held. We should have just like dumped those when we had a chance, but we didn't. And you know, but it's okay. I think it was worth it in the end.
And actually, you know, just going back to the escape rooms and some of the ways that we ended up after we kind of hit the proverbial wall, after, you know, sort of seeing how the sausage is made, we started to try to kind of perturb our space by making minor modifications, doing things like we'll do one where, you know, the only person that can handle objects is blindfolded. We'll do one silent except for the commentator. You know, people talk about iterative game design, but I would say that we were engaging in a method of like iterative play, where by doing something past the point of it being fun, it transforms your relationship to it such that you start to modify things, change things, see what's happening in the sort of, you know, through the corner of your eye on the side, whether it's the economics of Dota or whether it's the sort of capacities to transform these particular escape rooms. And so I really, even though, you know, after doing escape rooms like 3 or 4 days in a row, you start to get tired, I really cherish those moments where we were kind of game designing along with the rooms that we were playing in.
Absolutely. We started making games. We were playing games. We were making games. We were making games about Dota. We made an escape room for ourselves. Patrick and I created this elaborate series of puzzles on the final day, and we tricked everyone. We said, we're going to do our final recording, and then we just trapped them in and made them do an escape room. And with Dota, I actually created a bunch of like, you know, new heroes. You have to figure out which ones are real, or rank these heroes based on something. So I thought we've got our season 1 cast who have done escape rooms, but we're not in Shanghai to play Dota. We've got our season 2 cast who were not in Malaysia to play escape rooms. What if we got the season 2 cast to do a little escape room, and then made the season 1 cast do a little bit of Dota.
Oh dear.
Oh.
Just going to mention that it's that you're doing an escape room for Will at midnight, so get that
Amazing.
coffee if you need it.
So I would say that let's start with Jing and Will.
Okay.
We have made a little puzzle for you, and Goldie and Chad, feel free to heckle as they solve this puzzle. Oh, sorry, help. Yeah. You can commentate. You can bring back all the memories of season 1. So,
Sure.
Will and Jing, the floor is yours. You're definitely going to need to communicate to this puzzle. The only thing I'll say is you're trying to open 2 combination locks of 5 letters each, basically. So there's like a chest with 2 combination locks, and you have to figure out a 5-letter passcode for each lock.
I am looking at a 4x4 grid that has 2 yellow squares and 3 purple squares. Are we the same so far?
No, I have 3 yellow squares.
So in the grid of 4, so row 1, cells 2 and 4 are I and E respectively. Row 2, cells 1 and 3 are L and R respectively. Row 3, cell 2 is A, and row 4 is W and N on 1 and 3 respectively. So.
All right. So from my side, in the row 1, the first cell has a letter, but it's partially scratched. I guess it's a T. It looks like a T. And the third cell is a D. And the second one is, of course, the second and fourth cell. They're OD, like Lord. And then third row is F and C on the first and third. The last row, I have an I in the second cell. I don't know. There should be something in the last cell, but it's scratched.
Okay, so our top 2 rows, then if we put our letters together, are Tide and Lord.
Yes.
Ooh.
And
Wow.
FAC.
That blue.
I have that same sort of like, it's almost like a shark came along and took a bite out of the grid.
Yep.
Tide, Lord, FAC, and then bottom level would be WIN, so win something.
So it seems like we've filled in all the letters, and it seems like they kind of spell out some names of Dota 2 heroes. I can kind of identify all, if not most of them.
Yes.
I haven't been able to figure out what the colors mean just yet. But as far as the heroes, we've got Tide, which I'm assuming is Tide Hunter. We've got Lord, which could be Underlord or Troll Warlord, maybe. We've got Face, which I assume is like Faceless Void, maybe.
Some secret Dota knowledge, Chad.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Good news.
And Wind, I assume, is Windrunner. Yeah.
I mean, Tide, Lord, Face, Wind, those sound like good. But I have to figure out how do we get from knowing those to what the actual passwords are.
So the purple letters are, for me, is E and N. What's it for you, Will?
It would be TREW. Would be the yellow letters.
Right.
And then what was the last name? Wind?
Wind, but
Runner.
our other heroes.
Oh, Wink. Wink.
Wink.
EFIK.
IK. So that would be ENFIK.
Knife. ENFIK. Knife.
Knife?
Oh yeah.
Knife. Okay.
Very cool.
Knife.
So you put in knife into one of the locks and it pops open.
Oh, what's in the box?
Yay.
Well, you get still locked by the other lock.
One more.
So you can't open it.
T-O-R-W.
So we're missing a letter for
RW.
I don't think we're missing a letter. We just got to figure out the word.
Yeah.
tower.
Tower?
Tower. Put in tower into the lock and it
tower.
pops open.
What's in the box?
Nice tower.
Oh, yeah.
Well done. Inside the box is a tower full of knives.
Wow.
Oh, that's Dota, right?
Wow.
Wow, a knife set.
Yang Jing, maybe you can explain what is Knife Tower?
That's the Chinese name of Dota. Dota.
Yeah, Dota in Chinese, Dota is Knife Tower.
Gosh,
And
I had no
consequently, it is time for you, Goldie, to answer some questions about Dota.
Get ready.
Yay! Okay, I'll do my
So-
best.
But you
Chad,
have a secret Dota fan here,
Me?
so it might actually be
Chad,
pretty
yeah.
easy. Yeah.
Chad, please.
So here's the rules of the game. We're going to ask you some questions. We're going to pose 3 heroes of Dota, 3 Dota heroes. One of them will be entirely fake. And Goldie, your job is to figure out which one is entirely fake.
All right.
Chad, you are allowed to help by only moving your face. You can't talk.
Okay.
Okay, so you can.
I want a nice one of these and a nice one of these.
No. We're not. Sorry, I should be clear. Moving your face, not your head.
Luckily, Chad has very expressive
Expressive.
eyebrows.
You look like Bear in the Big Blue House just said, like leaning forward. It's nice. Yeah,
All right,
let's do it.
we might increase the difficulty depending on how Chad communicates. Okay.
Who knew
so-
we had such a Dota like wizard with us?
Yeah, from season 1. All right, Goldie. Here's 3 heroes. Which one is fake? The 3 heroes are Spirit Breaker, Shadow Smith, and Anti-Mage.
Shadow Smith is not real.
Bing, ding, 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 ding.
Hey.
That was
Wow.
no hesitation. How did you
Amazing.
know?
The word Smith doesn't fit.
Smith. All right, level 2
Oh,
out of 3. Dark Pattern, Ancient Apparition, Chaos Knight.
Chaos Knight feels like it's from like Magic the Gathering. Dark. What was the first one? Sorry, Shadow.
Dark Pattern,
Dark
Ancient
Pattern.
Apparition, Chaos Knight. And yeah, tell us your thought process.
Okay, first question is: are these characters necessarily?
These are heroes that you can control in the game of Dota. They have their own special abilities,
Pattern.
their own backstories.
Yeah, Dark Pattern would be like if I got a motorbike or something, call my motorbike Dark Pattern. It's cool. Third one is the one that's standing out to me. So because the first 2 aren't, and I think they're both cool, even though I'm not sure that Pattern is like enough of a name, I'm going to pick number 3.
Chaos Knight.
Wait, look at him.
Oh no!
Remember, you can call in Chad's face.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Lifeline.
But yeah.
So
Sorry, Teddy.
Dark Pattern is not yet a real Dota hero, but Valve, call me and we'll chat.
Should have followed my heart.
Ice Frog has something planned in a future update. Okay, our final. So you've got 1 correct, 1 incorrect. This is the final, make or break moment.
Okay.
Here are the 3 heroes. Which one of these?
Chad,
is
if you don't know,
not
by the
real?
way, feel like jump in.
Okay. Here are the 3.
Yeah.
Lion, Viper, Raven.
Ooh. Lion, Viper, Raven. I think it could be Raven. I think I would name a Dota character Lion. And I think I would name a Dota character Viper for sure. So I'm going to go with Raven, which, like the word, whatever, like Scowler or whatever the English word was in the first one.
Shadow Smith?
Smith, like Smith, Raven. Doesn't fit.
Ding, 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 ding!
Hey!
Congratulations,
Wow.
you won the game. That is
amazing.
incredible.
That was fun.
I
should
am
work
so
Dota.
impressed.
Give me a call. I'll work for you, Valve. Call out your bullshit before you put it in the game.
Well done, Goldie.
They do have some
and-
characters with names like Grim Stroke, and you're like, wow,
Oh, yeah.
that's a name.
Chad, thank you for your help. Your eyebrows were very, very, very helpful throughout.
So, okay, we've reached the kind of end of our segment here. What did we learn from all this? You know, we've done these amazing adventures. We've got to know each other really well. We played together. Esports, escape rooms, going to different cities. Why? What's the point? What did we accomplish?
I think it's like the best travel experience I've ever had in my life. It was so nice to. Before this, I wasn't traveling too much. Like I didn't grow up traveling or anything like that. But I've been to GDC a few times, which I'm really lucky to have done, and that's always really fun. And I've traveled around the US a bit. But the purpose of like going to Kuala Lumpur and doing this weird kind of project with weird people.
Hey.
Lovely weird people. Gave me, I think, a really fascinating way to embed into this city properly, really quickly. So going and traveling with a task in mind, that's kind of like half work but half research and another half for fun. Yeah, I don't know. I would recommend it to anybody who's got a gang of friends. Like go and do something ridiculous in a different city if you can, because it will help you understand the city in a really different way. To just visit.
Yeah.
To me, it still feels like a miracle that 10 people managed to make it to a city at the same time. Like, I don't know how we pulled it off, but it to me, it's just like an absolute miracle that it even happened in the first place. We played so many escape rooms. I can't believe we played like 51, 52 escape rooms.
It's a lot.
I know that when I stayed in Kuala Lumpur like a few more days after everyone had left, and I was actually still playing escape rooms with local friends there. To me, I think it's just the memories that we made together, the yummy food that we all had, all the weird, quirky moments that we had during the escape rooms. That one weird escape room that we played in the apartment that we were staying at. That was quite fantastic. And I think it was just being there, being in the moment, and having a good time, and learning to play with all the other friends.
Yeah, I think like thinking about the relationship between travel and play, and what that means going forward.
For me, it's the relationship between people and play. The first part is, of course, the crew, ourselves, because I usually play solo in real life or on computer. And I realized, although we're working, but it's really fun. And there's a lot of strategies and tasks. And I think almost all of us got sick.
Oh, really?
In particular, yeah. And I think I got cold, and Shang Lun was, for one night, he's injecting too much like Red Bull, and it was really energetic for a while.
Man, I had the first Red Bull of my life.
I mean, of course, it's going to be at an esports competition.
I would pay to see you on Red Bull.
Gamer.
So much energy.
The other part is outside of the crew, like Will was saying, we were there to see Dota, and I was new to Dota, but then I realized how it could be connected with people or the landscape of the city. Like we went to Mercedes-Benz Center to watch, which I tried to go there. But when I don't want to go, we went to shopping malls where there are seats lined out there. But people who are not lucky enough to get a ticket to the main events would buy like for $20 or $25 to sit there and watch it from the screen, which is way more comfortable than the center. And then we went to some art space, and we met people who are doing money laundering, or who said they can do money laundering from streaming all these esports events, and then it's crazy. Like it's a single act of play of a game that's foreign to this country, but somehow a lot of different people are connected together, knowingly or unconscious of that. So for me, it's very fascinating.
For me, having been on both seasons, I felt like it was really interesting to see how both escape rooms and Dota are similar in that they make you part of a team. So, like, for example, with escape rooms, you're part of a team in a much more intimate sort of way, where it's only the other 4 people in the room with you. Whereas with Dota, it's like being on a team with everyone else who's watching alongside you. We were going through like Reddit on the Dota subreddit, looking at everyone else who was also watching and also participating in the same way. And it was really wild to me to have that kind of difference of experience, one being in a team with just the people around us and one in a team with everyone around the world watching as well. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Like, I understand now. I had no idea why people watch sports before, to be honest. But I do understand. It's definitely has a sense of belonging and excitement. There's an excitement there,
It's
and
thrilling.
watching something together with people.
And we were kind of like an esports team in a different way. Like, Will was our carry who actually went to the matches and watched the matches, and like Shang Lun was mid, where somehow he ganked a lot of people and ended up actually like being on the Dota TV show.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Some of us played supports, and so it had that kind of team-based dynamic to it. I think both seasons sort of brought that together. And I think that our method specifically, again, this kind of like immersion method within a concentrated period of time, bringing this many people together, was able to really bring that out. And I actually just really quickly want to go back to something Goldie was mentioning a few minutes ago, where you were asked, when you said, when people ask you like about podcasts and are you on them, and you talk about this one, and they're like, what? There is a reason why people don't do 8 or 10 person podcasts, right? Like, there's a really, really good reason. And I can't imagine, like, I think that there's a very specific reason why we did this within a small period of time, where we all could commit to that 1 week and that 1 week only to really kind of, invest our time and energy in this space and like get into that space. And then you can say, all right, like now you can walk away from that. So not only in terms of like, how do you manage an 8 to 10 person podcast and get everyone there? Like, it's logistically very hard. How do we all have to like record? It was always like recording in a hot room. 100%. Season 1 was in a bedroom where we had to literally take the mattresses and like put them on the wall, that kind of thing. And so I think that, again, even though this isn't a common genre of podcast, we found a kind of way of doing it that worked really well with the format.
Yeah, and I think just piggybacking on that, I thought a lot about how easily things maybe could have gone really, really wrong, or it could have been like a really rough week interpersonally, because there's like a lot of people in a single apartment who like maybe didn't know a lot of the other people in there, and it was like very hot, and like the water pressure was like anemic, and like I didn't feel clean the entire week, and all of which but all of that was sort of just like ended up being a total non-issue, because everyone had sort of like made this choice of like, we are doing this together in this like interesting sort of immersion thing that is sort of marked off from like what our ordinary lives are like, and we've committed to this, and we've committed to each other. And we're going to like make this happen, and we're going to make something really, exceptional out of it. And so that really, I think, worked for everybody. And I think it was something about just, about this looking differently at sort of ordinary experiences helps you get something very different out of them, and what we get out of each other. So
yeah, the podcast is inspired actually by the work of Bernie DeCoven and his theory of the well-played game. And, it turns out that playing well together is really hard work, right? And I think that for me, at least, what's really special, or what's been really special about this podcast, is that finding a group of people to play well with together is rare. Sometimes you're lucky, it happens in this like magic moment, right? But for the most part, it's incredibly rare. And just to be a little sentimental here, I think it's one of the most beautiful things in this world that I can experience, and like what I actively seek and want to do is to find people to play well with. And that's hard. It takes, intentionality, consent, safety, trust, building the play community together, rebuilding, negotiating, renegotiating, right? It's not like you do this one thing and then it's done. It's this constant process. So again, I really cherish that. And I think that when it happens, it's really special. And for me, at least, doing this podcast, if I can sort of share my curiosity about all these, kind of like it's wild and weird things, whether it's escape rooms or esports, I'm happy that we have this kind of document of that moment.
One of my favorite videos, we took a few videos during the season 2 podcast, and there's this one video when I was going through all of them where we had all given up. We were tired. We were burnt out from too many Red Bulls, too many Dota, Dota watching. Yeah, exactly. That we decided to take a day where we watched some of the games from our home on the TV instead, to have a different sort of experience. And there's this amazing video of like some people on the couch just like chilling out, watching the videos, and I'm just sitting there snoring, like a full on like legs and arms played out, and everyone's just around, with food and drinks and snacks. And it's just like, it's a lovely sense of community, and you really do end up trusting each other fully, and becoming like a family, which I think is beautiful.
I've got this lovely photo from one of the days where I was grumpy. It was like early in the morning for me, and we were playing, and you'd already been down to like the market to get food for everybody for breakfast, and I'm leaning on the kitchen counter, and everybody else is a big group photo, and I'm just in the middle like scowling. But it didn't matter because I was grumpy, and that was okay. Like, it was okay to be grumpy in the group at that point. And I know when I like cross that threshold where you can get like grumpy, and people are like, "Oh, that's just Goldie's just grumpy right now," and it'll pass. Came from play, came from like extending ourselves socially so hard for 5 days, where otherwise I probably would have been like, "Oh, I just need a bit of alone time." But I don't know. Yeah.
But that's part of it, and it's not extending so far that you burn out, right? It's
no,
also
not at all.
About knowing your limits to what within within the space of a week, like what are kind of the capacities, which is why we didn't do every single escape room, or maybe with the exception of Will on one day, watch every match. But we did the best that we could with what we had, and I think that was really successful.
For sure.
Oh, I just want to add that definitely the support system was there, and it was super nice. We have a few accidents. No one wanted to commit them, but it happened. Like, we lost the recorder at the stadium one day, but we're so smart collectively, like intellectually and emotionally, and we get it back the next day. And we had some incident recording a particular episode. We have to redo it. We made it work. Yeah. So there's a trust in everyone, and in this team as a whole, and in yourself, like, we can do it. And even if we can't, it's okay. That's very reassuring and very unusual. Like, you don't have that in life all the time. But you don't have it most of the time. So
I think that's my main takeaway, that through our playfulness and through this intense experience that we had together, we kind of transformed, right? We really tapped into a sense of loveliness and reciprocity and support, focused around these cultural objects that enabled us to really have a sense of place and time. I will never forget spending time with each of you in Kuala Lumpur, in Shanghai, playing escape rooms, experiencing esports for the first time. What a transformative experience. So thank you all so much, and thank you for being on this panel as well for Every Game in This City. Thanks to Creative Victoria and Melbourne International Games Week for having us. We've been your hosts, Harry Lee Shang Lun.
And I'm Stephanie Boluk.
I'm Alexandra Lee.
I'm Goldie Bartlett.
I'm Chad Toprak.
I'm Jing.
I'm Will Partin.
And you should definitely check out Every Game in This City. Woo! Cue outro music.